Lease adjustments may become necessary in the event of modifications to lease terms. A lease adjustment is defined as any modification to the terms and conditions of a contract that leads to a shift in the extent of or the consideration for a lease. My name is Muhammad Amir. Discuss my thoughts on the business process within Dynamics 365 Finance. In the asset leasing, when create schedule, the system calculates the present value of future minimum lease payments and creates three schedules: payment schedule, liability, amortization schedule, and depreciation schedule. Then, when confirm the schedules, the system recalculate the present value of future minimum lease payments again. Then post the initial recognition, which is the very first transaction, and posting subsequent lease transaction, liability amortization, that posts the interest payment transaction and depreciation transaction. Assuming a lease is adjusted, here the adjustment calculation proceeds as follows. The system calculates the present value after adjustment. The system retrieves the liability carryover amount from the period preceding to the adjustment date. This carryover amount is subtracted from the newly calculated present value by the system. When a lease is remeasured due to changes in the present value of future minimum lease payments, adjustments are made accordingly. If the present value of future minimum lease payments increases, a journal entry is recorded, debiting the right of use asset account and crediting the lease liability account for the variance between the new and the previous present value of future minimum lease payments. On the other hand, if the present value of future minimum lease payments decreases, the entry entails debiting the lease liability account and crediting the right of use asset account for the difference. In the case adjustment result in the right of use asset decreasing below zero, any surplus will be credited to the gain on the lease modification posting account. Let's quickly demonstrate the lease adjustment wizard within the asset leasing module on Dynamics 365 Finance. By going to asset leasing module, leases under lease summary, I have this lease and I have posted the initial recognition and 1 year of transactions of this lease on the liability amortization schedule, the payment schedule, and depreciation. So if we check the assets transactions, we have the initial recognition and the depreciation, and this is the asset balance. And if we check the liability transactions, here we have the initial recognition, the interest, which was posted through the liability amortization schedule and lease payment, and this is the current lease liability balance. Also, we can check the carryover amount in the liability amortization schedule in the ending balance, and this is our ending balance of December 2020, and we have the asset depreciation schedule. We can check the ending balance of the same period. Now, let's move to the lease summary and adjust this lease through the adjustment wizard. This is the wizard welcome page, and then in the adjust date, we have the system propose the modification start date and the posting date, January 2021. Move to the enter new contract details, and here we can enter the new information that we need. Let's assume that we are changing the incremental borrowing rate from 5% to 6%. And I will leave everything else as it is. move to next. This preview shows you the new asset balance and the new liability balance beside the previous asset balance and the previous liability balance and the adjustment. And also it shows you the adjustment entry as a preview. So where you can review the calculated adjustment, see the effect on the ledger accounts of the right of use asset and liability. You can save and close and then come back to continue the adjustment, or you can finish, and this means that the system will post the adjustment transaction. Also in this adjustment preview, you can show the accounting currency amount and amounts in reporting currency. And now I will post and go to lease books. And from the lease book, we can check the asset transactions. And here we see the lease adjustment decrease. That's it for this demo. Let's go back to our presentation. The key takeaways of lease adjustments: the system calculates the present value after adjustment. Then the system takes the liability carryover amount in the period before the adjustment date. Then calculate the lease adjustment by subtracting liability carryover from newly calculated present value. And we need to remember the three scenarios that we have. If the new present value increased, then debit right of use asset and credit lease liability. If the new present value decreased, then debit lease liability and credit right of use asset. If the right of use asset decreased below 0, then any surplus will be credited on lease modification account. That's it for today. Thank you and stay tuned for more videos.